Good morning, students. So we have completed our fourth module, that is the module regarding cams. So hope you are very clear regarding all the important four types of cam and follower motions. So you can definitely expect 120 marks question from that module, fourth module. Now we'll move on to the next module, that is module 5, that is regarding the spur gears. So here you can see in this module it consists of two parts again. Spur gears is the first part, second part is regarding the gear trains. In spur gears you can expect one question, that is 10 marks, maybe a theory, and another question 10 marks, mainly problem. So the problem will be very simple. If you can just remember the basic formulas, you can easily do the problem, very easy problems. And theory, like mostly they can ask the gear terminology or regarding the derivations of law of gearing, path of contact, or minimum teeth required to avoid interference. So three derivations, very small derivations are there, then one theory part is there. So if you can go in that, you can get 20 marks, or if you can also attempt the gear train problem where you will have one problem. That is also very simple if you know if you can get the concept clearly. So we'll go into that later. So now we'll go directly into the spur gears. We'll see the theory part first. Module 5, spur gears. So you can see gears here. You can have the gear terminology where they will be having the basics of gears. Then you have law of gearing, that is a theory, a derivation, small derivation. Then you have the two more derivation regarding path of contact and interference. So as an introduction, we can just talk about what is a gears. So here you can see two wheels. You can see the two wheels which is meshing with each other, or we can tell mating with each other. So when you have two wheels meshing with each other, and the main purpose of this wheel is to transmit motion from one shaft to another shaft. So you can see a shaft here and another shaft here. Both shafts are rotating. So if you are giving power to this shaft and you need to transmit the power to the next shaft, you will use this kind of arrangement or this kind of device. You can use a lot of devices. For example, we have belt drive, we have chain drives, and we can use gears also. So every device is having its own advantage and disadvantages, but here you can see what is the advantage as well as disadvantages. So if you have to transmit motion from one shaft to another shaft, so you will have two wheels like this meshing with each other. So what happens here is, if you can see the thrust force which is acting downwards and the force of friction acting opposite to it. So if the tangential force which is acting downwards is do not exceeding the frictional force, then this two wheel can rotate freely. That means if this wheel is rotating in this direction, this wheel will be rotating in the opposite direction. But when this tangential force P exceeds this frictional force F, what will happen means it begins to slip each other, and that means you cannot transmit motion from one wheel to another wheel. In that cases, what we will have is, we will have some arrangement, some projections. We will have some projections on the surface of the wheel. You can see like this, just like a teeth. It is called as the teeth. So using this projection, what will happen means this force will not exceed the frictional force. So it will be within the limits, so that you can transmit a higher motions between the shafts. So that means the shafts which is moving with high velocities can be transmitted easily when you have a projection like this. This kind of arrangements are called as gears. So this gears basically is used to transmit motion from one shaft into another shaft. So now we'll move on to the next, that is the different types of gears you can have. So hope now you are clear regarding what is a gear, what is the purpose of gear, like that. Now what are the types of gears? We can differentiate the gears on the basis of the position of axis. When both axes are parallel, I told like you will be using gears in order to transmit motion from one shaft to another shaft. So when the arrangement of shaft is parallel to each other, you have spur gear, then you have helical gear, then you have rack and pinion. But when this axes are intersecting with each other, that is either it is perpendicular or inclined to any other angle, it is that comes under bevel gears. Sometimes both the gear will be like it's non-intersecting and non-parallel. That means both are in different planes. So that kind of gears are called as worm and worm gears. So we'll go into the spur gear, the most common type of gear which you are seeing. You can see a lot of application of this gears. So this gears will be used to transmit motion inside a lathe machine. You might have seen inside the gearboxes of lathe machine or any other vehicle gearboxes. You can see the gears in this form. That you can see the teeth which is present over here, that is parallel to the axis of the shaft. So that's the main reason why we are calling this a spur gear. Here the main intention is to transmit power from one shaft to another shaft only, and it is used in a lot of, so you can see the alarm clock, washing machine, clothes dryer, lathe, like lot of application you can have. Then you have the internal and external spur gears. You can see when one gear and both gears are rotating externally, as in the case of like this. So that means when one shaft is rotating in one direction, another gear will be rotating in opposite direction. For example, if this is rotating in clockwise, this gear will be rotating in the anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. When you come to internal gearing system, if one gear is rotating, for the namesake we can tell this is the driver gear. Driver means the gear on which you will give the power, and this is the driven gear. Driven means the gear with which it is rotated. So if driver is rotating in clockwise direction, then driven is also will be rotating in the clockwise direction. That means both the gears will be rotating in same direction in the case of internal gearing. Now you can see the helical gear. Helical means just like a helix. The teeth on the helical gear will not be parallel to the axis of shaft. Here it will be cut at an angle. So this what is the advantage of this kind of gears is it will operate much more smoothly and quietly. So noises will be much more less in this kind of gears. Now it is herringbone gears. Herringbone gears, you can see both two type of helical gears will be mounted side by side, so you can reduce or cancel much of the thrust forces. So very good meshing you can expect here, and slipping will be very less in this type of gears. So this, due to that, this type of gears are mainly used for heavy machineries for transmitting a very big load. Next we'll move on to the rack and pinion. Rack and pinion, you can see in the figure, it is used for converting rotary motion into linear motion. You can see when this rotates, this rack will be reciprocating. When pinion rotates, rack will be reciprocating. So linear motion can be converted into rotary motion or rotary motion into linear motion. Next is bevel gears. Bevel gears, you can see bevel gears are used to connect two perpendicular shafts. One shaft coming like this and another shaft in the opposite man like this. So both perpendicular shafts, if you want to connect, you can use bevel gears. So that can be either straight teeth will be there, spiral or hypoid, like different types of teeth arrangement you can expect here. So this is mainly used for marine applications, files, printing press, railway track inspection, like a lot of applications you can find here also. Now next is, okay, let's more schematic regarding the bevel gears, and now we'll move on to the worm gear, worm and worm gear. So this is the arrangement of worm and worm gear. Here the gears are neither parallel nor intersecting. So one more feature of this type of gear is, if you turn the worm, the big gear will be rotated, and reverse is not possible. That means if you rotate the bigger gear, you cannot turn the worm. So worm gears are used in order to have a higher gear reduction, large gear reduction. For example, that means if you have very small force with which you are rotating the worm, you can rotate a very big gears. That means when the worm is rotating at a very high speed, that speed can be reduced to very small speeds for the bigger gear to rotate. So that's how we can have the speed reduction in this kind of gears. So here this also is used for material handling, transport machinery, like that purposes. Now we'll move on to the nomenclature. Nomenclature, the basic terms which is there in the spur gears. In nomenclature, you have a lot of terms like addendum, dedendum, face width, addendum circle, top land, like that. So I'll just go through each thing. So first and foremost thing what you have to know is regarding the pitch circle. You can see the pitch circle. So this is the pitch circle. So what is this pitch circle? Pitch circle is nothing but you have a pitch point. This is one pitch point. Likewise you have another pitch point here. So what happens is, when you have a teeth like this and when you have another teeth coming and meshing over here, the surface of the teeth, both teeth, one gear like this, another gear will be coming in the opposite direction like this. So both will be meshing at only one point, the point of contact between two gears. For example, here you can see in this picture, both teeth is meshing, both teeth from different gears will be meeting at only one point. Point of contact will be happening at only one point, and that point is called as the pitch point. So we'll be having a pitch point over here, you have another pitch point over here, like that, different teeth. So when you join all the pitch points, you will get a circle. So that circle is called as pitch circle. So that pitch circle diameter is nothing but the diametrical distance from this pitch circle. Diameter of the pitch circle is the pitch circle diameter. And next is addendum. Addendum is the radial distance from the top surface. This is the top face. From there to the pitch circle. Radial distance from the top surface to the pitch circle is called as addendum. Similarly, dedendum. Dedendum is radial distance from the bottom of the teeth, base of the teeth, to the pitch circle. So that is also the radial distance. It is called as dedendum. Then you have the circular pitch. Circular pitch is this circular distance, circumferential distance from one pitch point or one side of the teeth pitch point to the consecutive. That means when you have this point, you have to take this point, or when you have this point, you have to take this point. So likewise the consecutive pitch points of the teeth, that circumferential distance is called as the circular pitch. Then you have the clearance. Clearance is this distance, that is, it is nothing but the addendum of opposite gear. And dedendum, you can see the dedendum of the another gear. So in between you will have a space. That distance between the dedendum of one gear to the addendum of another gear, that space in between space is called as the clearance. Then you have the face. Face is the side of the teeth which is above the pitch circle, and similarly the side of the teeth below the pitch circle is called as flank. Then you have top land. Top land is the top surface of each teeth. And then you have the tooth thickness. Tooth thickness is nothing but this distance from this point to the another point. Tooth thickness. Then total depth is full distance from the addendum to the base. So this full distance is called as total depth, and clearance we have already explained. Tooth space, now you have the tooth space. Tooth space is again the distance from this point to the consecutive another point. So likewise you have different, then you have the face width. Face width is the width of each teeth. Then you have addendum, backlash. Backlash is I will explain that. So likewise different terms are coming here, so you can just study each term by looking the figure diagram. There is nothing to by heart here, just understand what are the different concepts which is coming for each gear. So you can see another picture where nomenclature is clearly explained. What is the addendum, dedendum, working depth, hole depth, face width, with color it is given. See again what is a pitch circle. Pitch circle with the diagram below. Pitch circle diameter, pitch point. Pitch point is the point at which two gears meshes each other. Then you have pressure angle. Pressure angle is the angle between the common normal. For example, at the pitch point, if you draw a normal line, perpendicular line, then if you draw a tangent to the pitch point, there will be a gap, angle between the two lines. That angle is called as a pressure angle. I will in detail explain that when we go to the derivations where it is required. So normally this pressure angle is denoted by the letter phi. Phi will be the common letter which is used to denote pressure angle. And in almost all of the gears, standard pressure angles of each gear will be 4.5 degree, 14.5 degree or 20 degree. This will be the nominal pressure angles which is there for the different gears which we are using in a normal day-to-day life. Then you have addendum, which we have already explained. You have dedendum, addendum circle and dedendum circle. So addendum circle is nothing but if you draw a circle with all the addendum points, this is one addendum, second addendum, like that all the points, if you draw the line or circle, you will get the circle as addendum circle. Similarly, you will have the dedendum circle also. Circular pitch I have already explained. There is a formula to find out also. PC equal to pi d by t, where d is the diameter of the pitch circle, and t is the number of teeth, how many teeth is present on the wheel. So pi d by t will give you the circular pitch, or it is nothing but the, I already told you, from this point to this point, this circumferential distance. Diametrical pitch, it is just the formula you can find here. It is T by D, that is number of teeth divided by the pitch circle diameter, that is the diametrical pitch. Then you have module. Module is nothing but the reciprocal of diametrical pitch, that is D by T. Here it is T by D, here it is T by T. You can study in that manner. Then clearance, I already told you what is a clearance. When two gears meshes with each other, there is a space between the addendum of one gear to the dedendum of another gear. That is what you mean by clearance. So clearance I will again explain you if you want when I draw a diagram in the book. When you have total depth for each teeth. Then working depth, tooth thickness, tooth space, everything we have explained. You can just go through it. Backlash. Backlash means again when two gears are meshing with each other, that is the difference between tooth space. That means tooth space is nothing but, this is the tooth space, this distance, tooth space. Similarly, when a gear is coming from above and meshing here, the tooth thickness of that gear and tooth space of this gear, the difference between that two, that is backlash. That means if one gear is meshing over another gear here, there should not be any difference between this two spaces. If there is a difference, then there will be some interference or some scratches occurring on the surface of the gear. So theoretically the backlash should be zero, there should not be any backlash. So some practice we will have some backlash in order to prevent jamming. If that space difference is not there, it will be tightly jammed between the two gears when there is a thermal expansion like that. So there will be some allowances provided in order to prevent this. So that is what you mean by the backlash. Similarly, face, flank, top land, face width, profile. So everything we have explained. So you can just go through it if you want to know. Then you have path of contact. Path of contact means when two gears are meshing with each other, the path which is traced by one teeth from the beginning of the engagement of the gear to the end of the engagement. That is path of contact. There is a derivation coming for this, very important derivation. So when we are explaining the derivation, you will understand it more clearly. I will draw and show you. The length is length of path of contact. It is nothing but the linear distance of the this path of contact. Then you have arc of contact. That is also the when on the pitch circle, if you take a distance, it will be in the form of an arc. So that is arc of contact. Then you have, see, this path of contact can be divided into two: path of approach, path of recess. That means from beginning to the maximum contact. When two gears mesh with each other, when it starts contacting, that is a minimum contact, it will reaches the high contact. That will be the maximum contact, where it is called as a pitch point. Then it begins to disengage and the contact becomes zero. So that is the path of recess. So when it comes, it is called as path of approach or arc of approach. When it begins to go away, move away, it is called as path of recess or arc of recess. So regarding all these terms, it will be more clear when we go into the derivations. So here just concept you keep in your mind. What are the different things we need to know when we study about the gears. Then the teeth. Regarding the teeth, you can make the teeth in two forms. One is cycloidal teeth, another one is involute teeth. Hope if you have studied the cycloid and involute in your first engineering graphics, it will be more easy. So nothing much to study here. Just keep in your mind that teeth may be generated in two types. One is cycloidal or involute. Cycloidal are the first made teeth. So there are some disadvantages for cycloidal teeth, as the slipping occurring in the cycloid teeth is more when we compare to the involute. So that's why nowadays we are using involute teeth for manufacture of gears. Cycloidal is just by telling the theory you may feel confused. You just go through it. I will explain that when we come to the problem. So epicycloidal means mainly used for external gears. So you can see here two gears are meshing externally. Hypocycloidal means internal gears. You will be using that. So how we are making that small theory, but it's not, this part is not required, just for your information. You can see involute teeth, how we are making involute. Involute is nothing but if you have a circular thread or something like that, thread will be wound over a shaft. So when you remove the thread from the shaft, how the path is generated, that path is called as involute path. So using this involute path also we can create a gear profile, gear teeth profile. So that teeth is called as involute teeth, and here the slipping is very least. So you can just study over what is the advantages of involute compared to the another cycloidal teeth. There is a comparison study here, involute and cycloidal, why we are using involute more often compared to the cycloidal teeth. So the theory which is present over here, if you can go through, it will be more helpful for you. So you can see the advantages. After that we'll move on to the law of gearing, that we will see in the next class. So this theory, up to this theory, you go through it and make it clear. Then we can go to the derivation.